Hi, my name is Julian Keneth. Today, me and my teammates will be talking about attachment theories. I will start with a brief introduction. Attachment is an intense and deep emotional bond that is built between two individuals, in which each person looks for closeness. They tend to feel safe and protected in the presence of the attachment figure. Over the years, multiple theories have been developed to help us understand attachment and relationships better. John Bowlby revolutionized the view of mother-infant bonds and relationships when he outlined attachment theory. His theory suggests that children come into the world biologically pre-programmed to form attachments with others for survival reasons. Mary Ainsworth concluded that there were three major styles of attachment: secure attachment, ambivalent insecure attachment, and avoidant insecure attachment. Harlow's theory suggests that for an infant to develop normally, he or she requires interaction with an object to which they can cling during the first few months of life. Erickson's theory proposes that children experience a universal set of crises as they develop an identity throughout their lifespan. This is all for my part. Now my groupmates will further elaborate on the theories.
John Bowlby, born from 1907 to 1990, is a psychologist, psychiatrist, and psychoanalyst. His interests in child development, pioneering work in attachment theory. He believed that mental health and behavioral problems attributed to early childhood. So he came out with 4 stages of attachment. Pre-attachment phase normally starts from birth to 6 weeks. Pre-attachment phase. The infant produces a need signal that brings others to his or her side and is comforted by the interaction that follows. Attachment in the making. This starts from 6 weeks to 6 to 8 months. Attachment in the making. The phase in which infants begins to respond preferentially to familiar people. Clear-cut attachment. This happens between 6 to 8 months and 1.5 to 2 years. Clear-cut attachment. Infants actively seeking contact with their regular caregivers and typically showing separation protest or distress when the caregivers depart. Reciprocal relationships. This starts from 1.5 or 2 years onward. Reciprocal relationships involve children taking an active role in developing working partnerships with their caregivers.
So now I will talk about the patterns of attachment that proposed by Mary Ainsworth. Mary Ainsworth is a developmental psychologist famous due to her work in the attachment theory. She designs strange situations to observe infant-caregiver relationship. The first attachment pattern will be secure attachment. The children that are securely attached will be upset when parents leave, happy when parents return, and when frightened they will seek comfort from parents, and they prefer caregiver over strangers. Parents of securely attached children will play more with their children, react more quickly to their children's needs, and also more responsive to their children than the parents of insecurely attached children. Second is ambivalent attachment. Children that is ambivalent attached tend to be extremely suspicious of strangers, display considerable distress when separated from a parent or caregiver, do not seem comforted by the return of the parent, and passively reject comfort or may display aggressions to the parent. Parents of ambivalent attached children have low availability for their children, and as these children grow older, teachers often describe them as clingy and over-dependent. Studies shows ambivalent attachment is relatively uncommon, with only 7 to 15% of infants have it. Thirdly is avoidant attachment. Children that is avoidant attached will avoid parents and caregivers. Avoidance often becomes especially notable after a period of absence, and children might not refuse parental attention, but they also do not seek comfort or contact from the parents. They show no preference between a parent and complete strangers, and parents of avoidant attached children are largely emotionally unavailable or unresponsive most of the time for the children. Fourthly is disorganized attachment. Children that is disorganized attached will have lack of clear attachment behavior, and these children display a confusing mix of behavior, seeming disorientated, dazed, or confused, and they will avoid or resist the parent. Inconsistent behavior on the part of parents might be a contributing factor in this style of attachment, and later research shows parents who act as figures of both fear and reassurance to a child is also a factor. Child feels both comforted and frightened by the parent, and thus confusion results.
What are the factors influencing attachment? Let's find out what are the 6 factors. Factors influencing attachment includes genetic, temperament, early life experiences, parenting, demographic factors, and cultural background. In genetics, John Bowie states that all infants are born with the primary drive to form a bond with the caregivers. It is the foundation for a healthy emotional development and is an evolutionary function that improves infant survival chances. Temperament is how we react to people, objects, and events. It is a measure of speed and intensity of how we react. Temperament can be categorized into 3 types: whether we are easy, difficult, or slow to warm up to people and objects. For early life experience, those that have secure attachment style as mother that would respond quicker to the baby's crying and know the reason behind the crying. As for those that have insecure attachment styles, the mother is lacking in awareness of the needs or feelings of the baby and has less physical contact with the baby. In parenting, the parent's attitude, if they are excited to be a parent, reflects on the child's attachment. Whether the parent is positive and responsive or negative and less responsive to the child's need will affect the attachment form, whether it is strong or weak. Some of the demographic factors, such as family income, whether it is steady, is it sufficient to support the family size, and parental age and education influences attachment. In cultural background, if the parent is wanting the child to be independent and is very strict to the child, it may result in weaker attachment. Likewise, if the parent has high expectation on the child might have no freedom, which will also result in weaker attachment.
Now, to talk about how early attachment would have an effect on children as they grow into their later stages in life. There's a lot of literature that emphasizes that parents play a key role in children's early development. This interest stems from the idea that parents are primarily responsible for nurturing or guiding their children in the right direction by carefully grooming them from a small twig to a tree or into an adult that possesses desirable traits and values that's seen appropriate by society. The necessity of forming attachments early in life has serious implications for children who grew up separated from their parents when they were young. Bowbly observed that children who grew up in institutions often don't form an attachment to any adult. While their physical needs were attended to, because their emotional needs were not fulfilled, they don't bond with anyone as infants and then seem incapable of forming loving relationships when they get older. Some research has suggested that therapeutic interventions might help make up for the deficits these children experience. However, other events have demonstrated that children that haven't developed attachments as infants continue to suffer from emotional issues. Failure to form secure attachments early in life can have a negative impact on behavior in later childhood and throughout later stages in life. While attachment styles displayed in adulthood are not necessarily the same as those seen in infancy, early attachments can have a serious impact on later relationships. Those who are securely attached in childhood tend to have good self-esteem, strong romantic relationships, and the ability to self-disclose to others. These children also tend to be more independent, perform better in school, have successful social relationships, and experience less depression and anxiety. Studies have reported that they observe negative characteristics and behaviors when there is poor attachment, such as emotional sensitivity, insecurity, anxiety, anger, poor social skills, coping and/or problem-solving skills, tantrums, failure to follow directions and/or clingy, being aggressive or having withdrawn behavior. In addition, children displayed attention-seeking behaviors even if it's positive or negative. Children with parents who promptly respond to their signals with care tend to be securely attached by the time they are a year old. This doesn't mean that parents should take the initiative to go to the child when the child hasn't signaled. If the parent insists on attending to the child whether the infant is signaling their desire for attention or not, Bowie said that the child can be spoiled. Bowie and Ainsworth felt, instead, caretakers should simply be available while letting their child pursue their own independent interests and explorations.